when a Yale student is gunned down after a minor fender bender in New Haven, Connecticut. Detectives assume it's a road rage gone wrong, but ballistics reveal something chilling. The 8.45 caliber casings at the scene match 4 unsolved drive-by shootings across the city. As the investigation progresses, detectives uncover something disturbing. The murder was part of a months-long plan involving stolen vehicles, decoy shootings, and a fake identity to hide one premeditated execution. On February 6, 2021, 26-year-old Kevin Jiang arrives at his fiancée Zion Perry's East Rock apartment after classes at Yale School of the Environment. The couple spends several hours together, ice fishing and shopping during the afternoon, before returning for dinner at her apartment. Jiang prepares to leave around 8:30 p.m., kissing Perry goodbye as he gets into his silver Toyota Prius. Perry stands at the window and watches Jiang drive south on Nickel Street toward Lawrence Street. The Prius travels less than a block before a dark-colored SUV strikes its rear bumper at the intersection of Lawrence and Nickel Streets in New Haven's East Rock neighborhood at 8:30 p.m. Jiang activates his hazards, pulls to the curb, and steps out to inspect the minor damage. He walks to the driver's side of the SUV, presumably to check if the other driver is all right and exchange insurance information. What happens next unfolds in less than 60 seconds. But the violence is anything but random. 2 shots ring out from inside the vehicle, hitting Jiang in the upper body. The driver gets out from the vehicle and fires 6 more rounds at close range, targeting his face and torso until he collapses on the pavement. A witness who lives near the scene later tells police that the killer walks over to Kevin as he is dying, pauses above his body, and fires 2 more shots while he lies in the street. The killer then gets back into his SUV and speeds away on Lawrence Street with headlights off. Surveillance video from the area captures the GMC turning north onto Mechanic Street from Lawrence Street. The vehicle enters the East Rock Community Magnet School parking lot the wrong way, exits, and continues east on Willow Street towards State Street. Another camera captures it traveling south on Ferry Street toward the Interstate 91 north entrance ramp. Multiple 911 calls reporting numerous gunshots flood into the New Haven Police Department. Officers arrive at 8:33 p.m. and secure the scene. They discover Kevin Jiang lying face up on the pavement. He is wearing a yellow and black jacket and holding an Army camouflage backpack. Paramedics work desperately to save Jiang, but the injuries are too severe. He is pronounced deceased at approximately 8:48 p.m. from multiple gunshot wounds to the head, torso, and extremities. Stippling can also be seen on the left side of Jiang's head, a burn pattern caused by gunpowder from a weapon fired at close range. The execution-style killing suggests this is far more than road rage. NHPD's Major Crimes Team is activated to investigate. Lead Detective David Zaweski and his colleague Stephen Cunningham join patrol officers already canvassing the neighborhood, knocking on doors and searching for witnesses. Crime scene technicians deploy floodlights and establish a 100-yard perimeter. About 100 feet down the road, Jiang's Prius sits in the middle of the street with hazard lights still on. During closer inspection, investigators notice black paint transfer and a 14-inch wide impression on the rear bumper, which is consistent with an SUV's front license plate bracket. Officers interview witnesses on scene who describe the fleeing vehicle as a dark-colored GMC Terrain. A light-skinned male wearing a yellow hoodie or jacket could be seen inside. Detectives also obtain security footage from a neighbor's security system facing the street. The footage is grainy, but there's no mistaking what it captures. The surveillance video records the sound of the initial crash, after which Jiang's Prius and the dark-colored SUV can be seen pulling up. The Prius stops, and at the same time, the SUV begins to reverse. Kevin can be seen getting out of his car and walking in the direction of the other vehicle. He walks out of frame, and seconds later, the gunfire starts. 2 shots ring out, followed by Kevin's last agonizing screams for help. 6 more rounds are fired in quick succession. Detectives find 8 .45 caliber shell casings scattered across the street near the body. 4 projectiles are recovered at the scene. 3 more are extracted from Jiang's body during autopsy, and 1 is found embedded in the camouflage backpack he was holding. Ballistics experts rushed the casings to the state lab for National Integrated Ballistic Information Network entry, yielding immediate hits to 4 unsolved drive-by shootings in New Haven dating back to December of 2020. While no one is actually hurt in any of the incidents, this appears more due to luck than anything else. The attacks seem totally random with no obvious motive at the time, but the ballistics hit changes everything. Kevin Jiang's murder isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern, and that pattern is about to reveal a chilling level of premeditation. At approximately 10:22 p.m., nearly 2 hours after the murder, NHPD sends out an officer safety broadcast to surrounding police departments, describing the suspect vehicle as a black or dark blue SUV, possibly a GMC Terrain. But by the time this alert goes out, critical minutes have already been lost. The killer could be anywhere. The victim's identity only deepens the mystery. Kevin Jiang was born on February 14, 1994 in Iowa City, Iowa, to Zhen Linda Liu and Mingqing Zhang. After his parents are divorced, Kevin grew up in Chicago, where Linda raised him mostly as a single parent through some tough times. Defying all odds, Kevin excelled academically. He attended North Seattle College before enrolling at the University of Washington, where he graduated magna cum laude with a bachelor's degree in environmental studies in 2016. In 2019, he joined Yale School of the Environment for a master's program. Besides graduate studies, Kevin balanced multiple pursuits. He became a certified personal trainer and launched a side business coaching clients. He started a YouTube channel dedicated to teaching fitness and health. He got his Washington real estate license and purchased a house in 2019 when he moved to Connecticut, in part so that his mother could come with him. Kevin also served in the U.S. Army National Guard, where he held roles as an environmental scientist, M1 tank crewman, and later an engineering officer. He was eventually commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Connecticut National Guard, specifically with the 118th Multifunctional Medical Battalion. In January 2020, at a Christian retreat in Connecticut, Kevin met Zion Perry, a fellow Yale student studying molecular biophysics and biochemistry. They immediately bonded over their strong faith and shared love of the sciences. On January 30, 2021, after almost a year together, Kevin proposed to Zion while hiking on a trip to a local waterfall. Perry posted the proposal photos on Facebook that evening, just 7 days before Kevin's murder. With Kevin's future stolen, detectives turn to his family for answers. They drive to his home to notify his mother, Linda Liu, about his death. Despite being completely crushed by the news, Linda tries her best to share information with detectives. She has no idea who could have wanted to do something like this to Kevin. She describes him as an ideal son who had no enemies, no conflicts, and no one who wished him harm. The detectives also interview an emotional Zion Perry. Her house is just 2 blocks from where Kevin was killed. As detectives lay out what happened, Zion comes to a horrifying realization. She had heard loud noises shortly after Kevin left that evening, but hadn't thought this was anything serious. Now she realizes she heard the sounds of her fiancé's murder. When asked if there's anyone she can think of who would have done something like this to Kevin, she says no. Absolutely everyone seems to adore Kevin, and they are completely shocked to hear about what happened. Kevin has no enemies, no one who would want him dead. The investigation seems to hit a wall before it even begins. Just as detectives are starting to feel completely lost, they get an unbelievable lead, and it's about to reveal that the killer has made a mistake so catastrophic it will unravel months of careful planning in a single night. At 8:57 p.m. on February 6, 2021, less than 30 minutes after Kevin Jiang is killed, police in North Haven receive a 911 call.
I'm the security guard at Sims Metal Management. I just had somebody drive through my yard here, they didn't know where they were going. So I had been chasing them around the yard, and they just pulled way in the back off the property. It's like a black minivan, SUV type of thing.
When North Haven Police Sergeant Jeffrey Mills and Officer Marcus Arteas arrive at the scrapyard, they find a dark blue 2015 GMC Terrain SUV wedged between railroad tracks. A lone driver stands beside the SUV. The driver identifies himself as Qinxuan Pan, a 29-year-old from Malden, Massachusetts. He's wearing a black hoodie, pants, and sneakers with a dark blue Patriots neck gaiter and a gray knit hat with a Metro PCS logo.
Stuck.
What are you doing back here, though?
I just got in here accidentally and I got stuck. Is there any way to get us stuck here?
The only thing I can do is call you a tow truck.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Sergeant Mills also notices a yellow jacket on the front passenger seat and a blue plastic bag and Dell briefcase in the back seat. When they run Pan's information, everything checks out. Pan's record is completely clean. North Haven police have not yet heard about Kevin Jiang's murder in New Haven, so they treat the incident as routine.
So what do you recommend I do? I mean, if I can get it off the truck, I prefer to drive it myself.
So how about you get a hotel for the night? We'll have the tow truck drop you off at the hotel. You pay for a credit card, and you can arrange to pick it up the car in the morning.
Okay, let's get the hotel then.
Yeah, let's do that.
If it is difficult.
That's probably the safest thing to do.
Okay.
Okay.
In one of the most surreal twists in this case, police officers are actually helping the murderer they don't know they're looking for. Pan is dropped off at a Best Western in North Haven, and Sergeant Mills clears the call like any other routine incident. The next morning brings another seemingly unrelated discovery that will prove anything but routine. Around 11 a.m. on February 7th, North Haven police receive another 911 call.
Hello, I work at Arby here in North Haven.
Mm-hmm.
We found a gun and probably like 10 boxes of bullets.
An employee coming into work discovers the bags on the north side of the restaurant's driveway. When Sergeant Jeffrey Mills hears the alert, he is intrigued and decides to check it out. Coincidentally, Arby's is located adjacent to the Best Western where Pan had checked in. While he doesn't think much of it at the time, things change when he sees the items recovered from the bags. Laid out on one of the restaurant's tables is a .45 caliber Ruger handgun, along with 7 magazines and at least a dozen boxes of ammunition. Also recovered are a black Ruger gun case, a gray Metro PCS knit hat, a blue plastic trash bag labeled City of Malden, Massachusetts, 3 license plates, a dealership plate cover, a black Dell briefcase, and a yellow Urban District jacket. Mills realizes he has seen these things before. The blue plastic bag, the black briefcase, and the yellow jacket are the same items he spotted in Qinxuan Pan's SUV the night before, and the knit hat matches what Pan was wearing. By now, North Haven PD is already aware of the homicide in New Haven. They know that New Haven PD is looking for a dark-colored SUV in relation to the murder. The dots start connecting. Pan's car the night before was a dark blue GMC Terrain SUV, and now his clothing and all items inside his car have been suspiciously left at a restaurant, right next to the Best Western where Pan is supposed to be staying. This no longer looks routine, and Mills knows he needs to act fast. He immediately calls the New Haven Homicide Squad and a team is sent to the Best Western. Surveillance footage shows Pan checking into room 276 at around 10:27 p.m. on February 6th, and according to the hotel reservation system, he still hasn't checked out. Hopeful that they have found their suspect, police immediately rush to the room. But when police get to room 276, it appears unused and unoccupied. A systematic canvass of the hotel does not locate Pan anywhere on the property. Qinxuan Pan has disappeared, but the evidence he left behind is about to tell a damning story. While a team of detectives focus on finding Pan, another team gathers more evidence linking him to the case, beginning with the GMC Terrain Pan was driving before he disappeared. They discover that Pan had taken the SUV from a station GMC dealership in Mansfield, Massachusetts on the morning of February 6, 2021. When detectives contact the dealership, they learn Pan asked to test drive the vehicle for a pre-purchase inspection, but after he fails to return the SUV and stops responding to calls, the dealership reports it stolen to Mansfield police around 5:30 p.m. The vehicle is officially entered into the system as stolen at about 10:40 p.m. that evening. On February 8th, Mansfield police obtain a Massachusetts arrest warrant charging Qinxuan Pan with larceny of a motor vehicle for the stolen blue 2015 GMC Terrain. Massachusetts State Police travel to Pan's home in Malden to execute the warrant. Detectives from the New Haven Police Department's Investigative Services Division join them, since Pan is already a key person of interest in Kevin Jiang's murder, and the stolen SUV is suspected to be the vehicle used in the shooting. When officers enter the residence, they find it completely empty. No Pan, no family members. The house is deserted. The empty residence confirms what investigators feared. Pan has fled, and he's not alone. The investigation now shifts from crime scene to manhunt. By February 10, 2021, New Haven police publicly named Pan as a person of interest in Kevin Jiang's murder and acknowledge that federal partners, including the U.S. Marshals, are assisting in the search. Through subpoenaed cell phone records, the Marshals discover that Pan maintains 3 active cell phones. In the months leading up to Kevin Jiang's murder, he repeatedly uses one of those phones to contact automobile dealerships, stating that he is planning a camping trip and wants to test drive vehicles. When Pan visits the dealerships, his behavior follows a consistent pattern. He asks detailed questions about the vehicle's cargo capacity and trunk access. He reclines the seats and positions himself inside the vehicle to assess whether he can lie flat. He tells sales staff that he wants to show the vehicle to a mechanic for a pre-purchase inspection. These explanations allow him to keep vehicles for extended periods, in some cases for several hours or overnight, without immediate suspicion. While reviewing the records obtained from dealerships in the Mansfield, Massachusetts area, investigators identify a critical connection. Pan signed out vehicles on December 11th, January 15th, February 5th, and February 6th. All those dates align with known shooting incidents at residences in New Haven. Cell site location data from Pan's phones place him traveling south from Massachusetts into Connecticut and returning north after the shootings on those same days. OnStar data from test-driven vehicles further confirm Pan's travel patterns to the shooting sites. The ballistics evidence, cell phone data, and dealership records all point to one conclusion: Pan carried out all 5 shootings. The evidence is overwhelming. Pan planned this for months. He created a false pattern. He covered his tracks. But he made one critical error. He got stuck on those railroad tracks. Now, the Marshals need to find him before he disappears for good. In an effort to locate him, they start tracking other phone numbers connected to Pan. Through databases and family connections, they link Pan to one of the numbers and initiate an emergency ping on it. The cell site location data returns coordinates within roughly 100 yards of a Super 8 motel in Garysburg, North Carolina. Marshals immediately deploy to the location, speak with hotel staff, check the registration system, and physically search the property. But they have no luck. No one named Pan has checked in, and the physical sweep also comes up empty. The Marshals aren't done yet. They head next door to the Shell gas station to check for surveillance footage or any sign that Pan passed through the area. The clerk tells them something interesting. Someone recently turned in a black cell phone in a red case that had been found outside in the parking lot. Marshals seize the device as evidence. When they examine it, their suspicions are confirmed. It's the same phone that pinged near the hotel, but now it's been abandoned. The screen deliberately cracked. The crushed phone tells investigators everything they need to know. Pan knows they're coming. He's destroying evidence, and his parents are helping him. The parents become the key to finding their son. On February 11th, Georgia State Police pull over a Lexus registered to the Pan family in Duluth, Georgia, after U.S. Marshals receive multiple license plate reader hits in the area. Pan's parents, Hong Huang and Hao Pan, are inside, but Qinxuan is nowhere to be found. When questioned, Hao Pan tells Marshals that 4 to 5 days earlier, Qinxuan called from Connecticut saying he needed help. His parents drove from Massachusetts, picked him up in Connecticut, and then drove south. They slept in the car at various unknown locations along the way. Hao claims he last saw his son between midnight and early morning on February 11th at an unknown location. Qinxuan stopped the Lexus, got out, and simply walked away. Hao also mentions that his wife's phone was lost somewhere en route. Hong Huang initially refuses to answer questions without an attorney present. But then, unprompted, she volunteers something. She believes her son may have walked away and killed himself. Marshals note that both parents appear disheveled and evasive. Their stories are vague, their timeline unclear. The suicide story sounds convenient. Too convenient. Investigators don't believe it for a second. But without proof that the parents knew about the murder when they picked Pan up, they can't charge them. They make a calculated decision. They'll let the parents go, and then they'll watch them like hawks. The Pans are quite wealthy, with millions in U.S. assets, including 2 Massachusetts properties, plus family and money back in Shanghai. Federal agents flag wire transfers from China and document the parents making cash withdrawals exceeding $10,000 across multiple states during the manhunt. Realizing the family has more than enough resources to help their son flee the country, authorities escalate their response. An Interpol Red Notice is issued on April 8, 2021, for murder and larceny, emphasizing his international flight risk. Authorities also opt for surveillance, hoping the parents will lead them directly to their son. A waiting game begins as weeks turns into months. Pan remains hidden, but the marshals are watching the parents' every move. Pan's parents travel repeatedly, their movements monitored by marshals who suspect they're providing ongoing aid to their fugitive son. License plates readers track their Lexus moving south through various locations. Pan has been on the run for 3 months now. The marshal's patience is about to pay off, because Pan's mother is about to make one phone call that changes everything. On May 4, 2021, Pan's parents drive off again, this time traveling with another couple to make it appear like a regular vacation. U.S. Marshals track them south into Georgia, then into North Carolina. The surveillance teams stay close but out of sight, waiting for a break. Pan's parents check into a Super 8 motel in North Carolina. On the evening of May 7th, Pan's mother, Hong Huang, borrows an employee's phone to make a call. Though she deletes the number from the phone's log immediately afterward, detectives are able to recover it through carrier records and subpoenas. The call traces to a boarding house near Alabama State University in Montgomery. The U.S. Marshals deploy around 20 officers from the Gulf Coast Regional Fugitive Task Force to the location. They surround the house and enter quietly, securing the building room by room. When they find Pan, he surrenders without resistance. He looks at the officers and says calmly that he's the person they're looking for. On May 14, 2021, 97 days after Kevin Jiang's murder, the marshals finally arrest Qinxuan Pan. Inside the sparse room, officers find Pan living amid fast food wrappers and debris. He's been renting the room under the alias Henry Choi, paying cash weekly and keeping a low profile. Seized from the room are approximately $19,980 in bundled cash, his father's passport, a laptop with MIT credentials, 7 burner cell phones, 7 SIM cards, and personal documents confirming his identity. Pan maintains his innocence during initial questioning. With the manhunt over, the case moves from pursuit to prosecution. Connecticut State Police escort Pan from Alabama on May 18, 2021. He appears for arraignment in New Haven Superior Court shortly afterward, where he is charged with murder and related felony counts, including felony murder and firearm and vehicle-related offenses. Pan pleads not guilty. Defense counsel files for a psychiatric competency evaluation. Court-appointed forensic clinicians examine Pan and declare him competent to stand trial. The Connecticut Supreme Court also upholds a $20 million bond, citing extreme flight risk based on Pan's 3-month evasion across multiple states, family wealth well into the millions, and international ties. While Pan sits in custody, forensic teams work to build an airtight case. Connecticut State Police Forensics processes the evidence obtained from Arby's and Pan's stolen GMC Terrain. DNA testing identifies Kevin Jiang's blood on the Dell briefcase and the gear shifter of the GMC Terrain. The reddish-brown tissue-like material on the Metro PCS hat is also identified as Kevin's. The left and right cuff area of the yellow jacket test positive for gunshot residue, indicating that Pan was in close proximity to a discharged firearm. The drive side front headliner and door area also test positive for GSR. His fingerprints are also recovered from the Ruger gun and its magazine, directly linking him to the weapon found in the discarded bags. Furthermore, investigators observed the Terrain's front license plate bracket hanging at an angle, attached only by one screw. The rear bumper of Kevin's Toyota Prius bears an imprint consistent with the exact shape and positioning of this damaged bracket. The physical evidence confirms that the front of the GMC Terrain collided with the rear of the Prius. However, forensic tests reveal the Ruger .45 caliber pistol found at Arby's is not the murder weapon. The actual murder weapon is never found. Sergeant Mills goes back to the scrap metal yard several times on his own looking for the weapon, but it is never recovered. The original purchaser of the Ruger reports selling the gun to an Asian male in his 20s, but he does not identify Pan as the buyer when shown Pan's photo. The missing murder weapon raises questions, but the motive becomes chillingly clear as investigators dig deeper. As investigators explore Pan's background, they uncover the connection that explains everything. Pan and Zion Perry were Facebook friends. They both attended MIT at the same time, where Pan was a graduate student and Zion was an undergrad. They met in January 2019 while attending various Christian group events on campus. They talked briefly on those occasions, but they never had a romantic or sexual relationship. They were more acquaintances than friends. Their last communication was on May 31, 2020, after Zion finished at MIT. Pan messaged her on Facebook, congratulated her on graduating, and asked if she would be able to have a Zoom call, but no call was ever scheduled or held. 8 months later, on January 30, 2021, Zion posted her engagement photos and video publicly on Facebook. Pan would have seen them. He would have known she was engaged to Kevin Jiang. To the detectives, the entire situation is starting to look more and more like a one-sided attraction that turned deadly when Pan saw Zion's engagement announcement. The case inches towards trial, but delays mount. COVID-19 backlogs and extensive pre-trial motions repeatedly push back the projected trial date. Nearly 3 years pass with endless legal maneuvering and an agonizing wait for justice. And then, Pan makes a decision that will spare Kevin's family from reliving the horror in court. The evidence against Pan is so overwhelming that even Pan's own lawyer advises him to plead guilty. On February 29, 2024, 3 years after Kevin's killing, Pan pleads guilty to murder in New Haven Superior Court in exchange for serving 35 years in prison without parole.